come on and do a video about my breastfeeding experience. So that's what this video is going to be. I recorded these. Hi, you're being a little loud. Can you be a little quieter? Come here. So I wanted to record a video about my breastfeeding experience. A lot of these clips in the main video I recorded when William was about 2 weeks old, and now he is almost 6 weeks old. So everything in the clips is still kind of relevant, but just wanted to preface that it's taken me a little while to get this video edited and posted. Hi, buddy. He is squirmy and vocal today, aren't you? Mwah. So it's okay. So that being said, this is in no way intended to shame anyone who doesn't or can't breastfeed, or make anyone feel like there's only one choice. Whatever choice you choose to feed your baby, whatever choice works for you and your family and your child is the best choice for you. However, I do know that a lot of people who do want to breastfeed have trouble sometimes. Like, for instance, my mom had trouble, my mother-in-law had trouble breastfeeding, my cousin had trouble breastfeeding, and luckily I have kind of experienced some of the ups and the downs associated with it. So that's why I thought that sharing my experience and kind of advice and tips would be helpful. So if you like this video, please don't forget to leave a like down below, leave a comment on how you feed your baby, or if you have any tips for breastfeeding, like how to increase your milk supply, how to make it more convenient, anything like that. Leave that in the comments down below, and please don't forget to subscribe before you leave. At the end of the video, I do share my smoothie recipe that I drink almost every day, and I think that it really helps keep my milk supply up, especially on days where I find it more difficult to like feed myself because I now have 2 children that I'm worried about feeding, and it definitely makes it enables me to get, oh, sorry buddy, definitely helps me also get some extra calories and make sure that those are healthy calories and that I'm getting plenty of nutrients from berries and those kinds of things. So if you want to stick around until the end, you'll also get my breastfeeding smoothie recipe. One last thing that I'll say before I jump into the video is that a lot of my tips are about increasing your milk supply, or kind of along those lines, because I have not really ever, hi buddy, ever met anyone or heard of ever like someone's milk supply being really low at first and then kind of like increasing, and that being, you know, problematic for them. I feel like oftentimes it's the other way around, where it starts being, you know, good or high, and then it kind of tapers off or decreases for whatever reason. And so so that's why I focus on that. But definitely if you are overproducing your milk, then you know, maybe don't follow some of the tips that I give for increasing your milk supply. So anyway, hope you love the video, and I'll just jump right into it. Hi, so you just stay right there. So I figured I would come on today and talk about breastfeeding, aka nursing, because my experience has been amazing breastfeeding Shepherd, and I'm optimistic about the experience breastfeeding William as well. I wanted to not be lying down in my bed for this video, but this is how I spend quite a bit of my time nowadays, because this one really likes napping on my chest. So that being said, I wanted to talk about kind of my experience breastfeeding / aka nursing, and how it went with Shep, how it's gone so far over the past 12 days with William, and then kind of some of the benefits of breastfeeding, and really like my advice and perspective on it, because prior to having a baby, you really just don't know how it's going to be. And like, I feel like people say so many things about how it like can be really painful, how it changes your body, specifically your chest forever. And like, you know, I think like formula feeding is really convenient, but, or seems really convenient, but breastfeeding can also be really convenient and really great health benefits. And a lot of these I didn't know before I had a baby. And so I just wanted to come on and make this video, and then hopefully it can be reassuring and enlightening. And without further ado, I'll just jump right in. So basically, starting with the it's okay, it's okay. Starting with the benefits of breastfeeding, I have my iPad over here so I can read some of them, but says benefits for baby is stronger immune system, less diarrhea, constipation, etc., like digestive issues, necrotizing enterocolitis, fewer colds and respiratory illnesses like pneumonia, RSV, whooping cough, fewer ear infections, fewer cases of bacterial meningitis, better vision, lower rates of infant mortality, lower rates of SIDS, less illness overall, less hospitalization, and breast milk provides abundant and easily absorbed nutritional components, antioxidants, enzymes, immune properties, live antibodies from mother. What's so awesome about breastfeeding and the antibodies is that not only does my baby get antibodies from any illnesses that I've had, but also if baby is sick and breastfeeds, your breast like recognizes whatever the illness is and like makes antibodies for the baby, even if I don't have those antibodies already, which is just crazy to me and amazing. And like, it's just such a miracle to be able to like, I don't know, naturally help heal your child, even if you didn't even get whatever illness they had. It's just awesome. Also, fewer instances of allergies, eczema, asthma, fewer childhood cancers, lower risk of type 1 and type 2 diabetes, fewer instances of Crohn's, fewer cavities, lower rates of respiratory illness, fewer speech and orthodontic problems, less likelihood of becoming obese, improved brain maturation, and greater immunity to infection. There's also, I know, which I'm not seeing here in the list, but I know that breastfeeding can also result in higher IQ. Teens and adults will find benefits for life. Says less likely to develop rheumatoid arthritis and lupus, less likely to develop heart disease, lower risk of multiple sclerosis, lower risk of pre and postmenopausal breast cancers. Just so good for babies to be breastfed. And I was a formula fed baby, and so was my husband, and we're, you know, both fine and perfectly healthy. But these are just some of the benefits. And obviously, you know, breastfeeding is challenging and not everybody can do it. And I feel really lucky that I'm able to breastfeed both my kids, but both my babies. Shep is not breastfeeding anymore, but he was for a long time when he was a baby. And yeah, I mean, if however you feed your children, that's amazing, but specifically, like, my experience has been really positive with breastfeeding, so that's why I want to talk about it and just hype it up, because it can be really difficult, and I just want to be encouraging for like, and I'll talk about that. But anyway, it's also really healthy for mom. I mean, this benefit says promotes faster weight loss after birth. Like, yeah, it does, but that's not like the key thing. I think it's really helpful to like help your uterus contract back to normal. You have less postpartum bleeding, definitely true for me. Fewer UTIs, less chance of anemia, less risk of postpartum depression, and more positive mood. I definitely feel like really positive. I've had more emotions lately, but not necessarily like the baby blues, and I definitely don't feel like I'm treading into like postpartum depression or postpartum anxiety, anything like that. But I think it is so awesome. Another benefit is for mom, you are less likely to get breast cancer or ovarian cancer in the future. You have lower risk of rheumatoid arthritis and lupus, less risk of endometriosis, less osteoporosis, less diabetes, less hypertension, and less cardiovascular disease. Just so many good things. And I think emotionally, obviously, there's great skin-to-skin contact when you're breastfeeding. Naturally, it like helps stabilize your hormones after delivery and gives you like oxytocin and feel good hormones like that. Increased calmness, increased confidence and self-esteem. I definitely feel like, and I've heard this from other people as well, is that like post-birth being able to breastfeed your children is a really like big confidence boost, and kind of, you know, your changing body, like it helps to appreciate your body so much more. Like obviously you just grew a human being over 9 months and birthed them, which is amazing, and then on top of that, if you are able to breastfeed them, it's like another just amazing thing, I think, to be so proud of your body as a woman. And the bonding with the baby is another amazing benefit. So anyway, I know I just read like a super long list, but those are some of the benefits of breastfeeding. I think it's really important to list all of those so that if you're trying to decide whether to breastfeed or not, it can be like an easily weighed decision. Obviously, there are some cons associated with it. Like, for instance, if I was bottle feeding my baby, then my husband could wake up in the middle of the night and feed the baby. But like, obviously, not bottle feeding the baby, so I have to be the one to wake up throughout the night and feed the baby and that kind of thing. And it's kind of a 24-hour thing where me and William will not be able to be separated for like the next 6 months for more than like 2, maybe 3 hours, unless I pump and use that milk or whatever. But it's kind of just this constant, every couple hours, 24 hours a day. I'm always gonna be with this little man, giving him some milk. So another thing too is your boobs do get like a little saggier. I don't know if that's because like mine just got so big when I was breastfeeding with Shep, and then like they kind of deflated afterwards. So sorry if that's a little TMI, but it is what it is, and I don't really care. They're definitely not as perky as they once were, but I really don't care. And to me, it's so worth any kind of physical change. Like, all of the positive things are just so worth it. So, and one more thing that I wanted to mention is formula actually has, I think, like more sugar in it and vitamin D, and is kind of like fortified a little bit, and so it can help your baby gain weight. So if your baby's not gaining weight from breastfeeding, or like if you're not making enough milk, or they're not latching on, therefore not getting enough, or whatever, formula can really help boost up their growth. And I think that that's another kind of benefit of not breastfeeding, or of like supplementing. But so just one more thing I wanted to mention, and obviously there are other benefits as well, but overall I think that tells a good story of kind of both sides. And the next thing that I want to talk about is kind of my experience with Shep, and so far my experience with William, and kind of how that's gone. So with Shepherd, I found breastfeeding to be super painful at first, and I had like this mindset, like, okay, if I can breastfeed him, great, but if not, I'm just gonna try for like a certain amount of time, and I think I can just stick it out for the first 6 weeks, and then beyond that, I'm fine, like if we switch to formula or whatever, if breastfeeding is just too hard. And so that was my mindset going into it. And so it was very painful at first for me to breastfeed Shep, and I was like, okay, I just have to make it through 6 weeks, and then I'm gonna be done, and I'm not gonna be breastfeeding him, and I'm gonna like pump and use my pumped milk, but also I'm gonna switch to formula. However, after maybe like 4 weeks, his mouth had grown, he was latching on really well, and it just didn't hurt anymore. Like, I couldn't really feel it. You don't really feel any pain, and you kind of don't really feel the baby like breastfeeding after a while. So at first it is really hard. I'm experiencing that with William now. There's definitely some pain, like specifically in your nipples, but it goes away like really soon after just a few weeks. So that is something that was really helpful to me, and I was able to go beyond 6 weeks and ended up breastfeeding Shepherd until he was 10 or 11 months old, and he just kind of weaned himself off. Like, we started giving him real food around 6 months, and I eventually, but I think by the time he was like 8 or 9 months old, I was only breastfeeding him when he would wake up and then before he would go to sleep. And so we did that for like 9 months, 9, 10, and 11, and then he just kind of lost interest and wasn't really into it anymore. And so now with William, I am planning on doing the same thing. I'm just going to breastfeed. I'm expecting it to not be as painful after a few weeks, and then I'm expecting actually, so one caveat is that with Shep, he started to get teeth around the time he was 6 months old, and or like shortly before that, and that when his teeth started coming in, it did get a little bit painful again, like not nearly as much as it was at first, but you could definitely notice, and I could like kind of tell he was getting teeth. But then that quickly like went away, and he's kind of just adjusted. So he had quite a few teeth by the time that he was done breastfeeding, and they don't bite you, surprisingly. Like, I was thinking that once he got teeth, I would want to stop breastfeeding because I was thinking he was going to bite me, but he didn't. And so just something to note. So William, I will continue to breastfeed him for as long as he wants. I mean, maybe I would stop at like 18 months if he goes that long, but I mean, if he weans himself off earlier, like around 11 months or whenever Shep did, then fine. But I want to try to keep giving him like milk until he's around 11 or 12 months old, just because it's healthy and want him to continue to get all those nutrients. And so I am pumping, and another thing that I want to talk about is the first 2 weeks. So the first 2 weeks of breastfeeding is really critical, because that is when your body like regulates your milk supply over the first 2 weeks. And so for me, I went into it with the mentality I would rather overproduce than underproduce, because I knew I'd be going back to work. I wanted to have milk stored up in the freezer. I wanted to, if possible, not have to supplement with formula unless I really wanted to. And I was really worried about like not being able to make enough milk, because I'd heard from other people, like friends and family, that they had that challenge. And so the first 2 weeks with Shepherd, I was pumping so much. So in the hospital, in order to get him, he had a little bit of like jaundice, Shepherd did, and in order to get him able to get his bilirubin levels down where we could leave the hospital, we had to, I would breastfeed him, and then immediately after I would pump for like 20 minutes, and then we would use a syringe to, and simultaneously I think Jeff was feeding him like the previous pumping session's milk with a syringe, and I was doing that like every 2.5 or 3 hours in the hospital. And we would feed him the pumped milk as well to try to keep milk flowing and give him plenty of milk and get all the bilirubin flushed out of his system. So that, I think, established my milk supply being like very aggressive, like essentially like as if I was feeding 2 babies instead of 1. And I continued to pump when I got home, like at least 3, maybe even 4 times a day, which in hindsight, I don't think I needed to do that much, so I'm not doing that much with William. But yeah, so I was pumping like 3 or 4 times a day the first few days when I got home to like keep my milk supply up, and also just like empty all of the milk out, because I was producing a lot. And so that never ended up being an issue for me, but I was producing quite a lot of milk, and we ended up filling up our entire freezer, which is another thing to think about, is if you like to use your freezer, maybe buy like a deep freezer or something, like an extra freezer or something that you can keep your milk in, because you will fill it up very quickly. Like, William's not even 2 weeks old, and we have a lot of milk in the freezer. I'll just say that. So, like I said, William is only 12 days old, and we have already filled up this whole thing down the bottom. I know it doesn't look like much from up here, but it's like, I don't know, probably like 30 or 40 bags of milk. I'm maybe making like, call it 4 a day, and 4 bags, because I'll pump and get like, you know, sometimes like 9 ounces like in the morning, but I'll split it into 2 bags because it doesn't really make sense. Like, no baby is going to eat 9 ounces of milk, especially like if they're less than 6 months old. And so by the time William eats these bags of milk in a couple months, like call it, you know, a month or 2 from now, he will probably only be taking like a 4 or 5 ounce bottle max. And so that is why, and you're not really supposed to fill the bags up to more than 6 ounces anyway. Another tip is freeze them flat. Like, obviously these still have some air in them, and so it's not like perfectly flat, but once they're flatter, they're a lot easier to stack up and kind of fit into your freezer, versus like if they were frozen up and down. It just, you save a lot more space if you freeze them flat. Yeah, anyway, so with William, I'm now only pumping when I wake up in the morning, and then before I go to bed, and then sometimes I'll pump in the middle of the day, like if he just hasn't eaten as much and my like boobs are really full or whatever, and I just feel like I need to, then sometimes I'll do like a little quick 5-minute pump. But I just do like 10, maybe 15 minutes, and typically more like 10 minutes in the morning, 10 minutes in the evening, and store that milk. And other than that, I'm feeding William on demand. So that's another thing too, is that I learned with Shep, is that when I was first feeding Shepherd, we went to his first pediatrician appointment. It's a few days after you leave the hospital, and they're like, okay, he really needs to be back up to his birth weight by the 2-week visit. And so we go to the 2-week visit. He's not back up to his birth weight. And what I had been doing was I was trying to get him on a schedule, because people had told me, make sure you get them on a schedule. And I was trying to get him on a schedule where he would eat every, like, oh, it's okay, Squeaky. It's okay. We're going to keep napping until Mommy's done recording. So I was trying to get him on a schedule where he would eat every 2 or 3 hours. But that being said, he was eating every 3 hours. Sometimes at night he would go like 4 hours, but I wasn't feeding him like on demand. And so when I get to his 2-week visit, he's not up to his birth weight again. And so, he hadn't made it back up to his birth weight. And so the doctor was a little concerned and wanted to do another weight check a week later. And I like panicked, because I was like, oh my gosh, he's not getting enough. He's not back up to his birth weight. I don't want to have to supplement with formula. So I started feeding on demand from that point on, and for the next week, and he ended up getting back to his birth weight. But so that's something I'm doing differently with William, is for the first 2 weeks until we do his 2-week appointment, which will be 2 days from now because he's 12 days old today, is I'm just feeding him on demand whenever he wants to. I'm trying to like kind of proactively feed him every 2 hours, or if he wants to feed more often than that, then I will just do it. And the way that I've been doing that is like doing a diaper change, or like trying to do different things. You could do different things to wake them up, like blow cold air on him, or like, to wake them up, or even sprinkle some water on their face or something like that to wake them up. But trying to get a good feeding in at least every 2 hours or so during the day, and then if he wants more than that, great. And then at night, I just let him wake me up whenever he's hungry, which has been typically like every 3 hours at night. But he is gaining weight really well, so hopefully he will continue to gain weight and be back up to his birth weight for his 2-week appointment. So I'll keep you posted on that. So basically after the first 2 weeks, totally my plan, and what I would say is like
good tip or advice, I guess, is yes, get them on a schedule after that. Once they've gotten back up to their birth weight, try to get them on a schedule where they're eating like every 3 hours. It'll just make your life a lot easier to be able to predict when they're gonna eat, because then you can kind of try to time it. So like if you want to leave the house, it's a lot easier to know, okay, I'm gonna feed the baby at call it like 9 a.m. and then we'll be able to leave the house by 9:30 or 10, and as long as we are back home by noon, or I'm in a position where I can feed them by noon, then we'll be fine and we can go out and do whatever we want to do. So I think getting on a schedule after they've, you know, gotten their latch where it needs to be, they're eating well, they're gaining weight well, then that can be really helpful just for like mom's peace of mind and you know, routine and all of that. The other thing is that so one last thing that I wanted to share about kind of my breastfeeding experience and journey is that something I learned is that when you wake up in the morning, that's when you'll have the most milk, like volume wise, but when you go to bed at night, that's when your milk will be so when you wake up in the morning, you'll have the most milk volume wise, but when you go to bed at night, your milk has the most nutrients in it, and that's because you eat throughout the day, and so your body like accumulates nutrients. So that's something to just note. And then another thing is that your body also starts to produce like nighttime sleepy hormones, basically, like I think like serotonin or whatever. Like your body is whatever you're putting into your milk can help your baby to fall asleep. And so like if you want to use pumped milk, I would recommend labeling your milk with the time, so that I do this, and so I know if it's morning milk or evening milk or like middle of the day or whatever, so that if I'm feeding my baby a bottle, or like if he's being babysat and being fed a bottle in the morning, or if I'm feeding him a bottle at night because I've like had a couple glasses of wine and I don't want to breastfeed him, then I'll make sure to do like morning milk in the morning or evening milk in the evening, so that he can get those kind of like sleepy time hormones and nutrients and all that stuff that he already needs. Last thing that I will say is breast milk does not have vitamin D in it, and formula does. And so if you choose to breastfeed, you have to do like a vitamin D supplement, and it's basically like you give them 1 drop. And what I do is I just like wash my hands, make sure my hands are clean, and then I put 1 drop on my pinky, and then I just put it right into baby's mouth. And I do this in the evening because vitamin D helps them to absorb nutrients. And so like if you're vitamin D deficient, you can't absorb as many nutrients from whatever you're eating. And so babies, if they're vitamin D deficient, if they're not getting vitamin D, then they won't be able to absorb the nutrients from breast milk. And so I do the drop in the evening so that he'll be absorbing kind of the more nutritious, like evening nutrient filled breast milk with his vitamin D drop, if that makes sense. So yeah, so I think that really sums up kind of my tips and advice for breastfeeding. I know it was a little all over the place. Sorry, I have a baby on my chest and I'm just sort of chilling in the bed, but yeah, if you have any questions or any like tips for me that you think that I'm missing or whatever. Oh, one more thing. Okay, so the things that you really like don't need, which I have, is a boppy nursing pillow, which I love my boppy nursing pillow. I don't put it around my waist. I actually put the hole on my leg, so where the top, like this back part is at the top of my leg and my hip bone, and that makes it really easy to kind of rest your elbow on it or rest baby's head on it or something, so that they can easily feed and you don't have to hunch over when you're feeding them. But really you don't need like a breastfeeding pillow. You can just use a regular pillow that you already have. So what else? Something you actually really will need are nursing bras and stay dry pads, so I'll insert a picture of the ones that I use and I'll link them down below. I use reusable ones and disposable ones, and it's just because the reusable ones I find to not be as absorbent, and so especially like overnight I'll use the disposable ones, but then like I find the reusable ones to be a little more comfortable, and like I'm not as worried about, you know, how are they made, what's in them, what, you know, what kind of chemicals or something could be in them or something, because I don't want necessarily like something that's gonna that has a lot of chemicals in it, like right up on my breast 24 hours a day. So and you know, the reusable ones are better for the environment, and so I like to use both. I'll link both below. And so there's the Boppy nursing pillow. I have a cover that I got on Etsy, which I will link below as well. So nursing pillow, stay dry pads. You definitely need nursing bras. I'll link the ones I have below. They're from Amazon, mine, and they're great. Target also has some really good ones. I did get 2 from Kindred Bravely that are a little more expensive, but I feel like you really don't need them. Like, I prefer the ones that you just kind of pull to the side, the like V-neck ones that you just pull, rather than the ones with the clip. I just find that they're a little easier to use for me personally, but I think it's just your personal preference. I would recommend getting like at least one of each and then figuring out which one you like better, but get a lot, because I have like 8 to 10 at this point, and from leaks and stuff, especially in the beginning, and overnight, like I just use them so much and I go through a lot of them. So unless you want to do a lot of laundry, I would recommend getting at least like 4. So, and then I think that's it. And I'll also link Williams vitamin D drops that we like below as well. But yeah, I think that that's really it. If you like this video, please leave a like. Please leave a comment if you have any questions about nursing, breastfeeding. Are those synonymous words? I don't even know if those mean the same thing. I use them interchangeably, but maybe they're meant to be used to refer to different things. But anyway, and please don't forget to subscribe if you like all of this mommy content. I'll definitely be doing more, as well as like vlogs, and I'm hoping to do some more interesting like fashiony things, but obviously my fashion lately has consisted of v-neck tops and leggings, and so we'll see if that kind of branches out. But anyway, hope you like this video, and I will see you in the next one.
So here's my recipe for my smoothie that I use to boost my milk supply. So I start with adding some blueberries, blackberries, raspberries, strawberries, and a banana. Typically like a size smaller banana. This one's kind of overly ripe because I like to save the better bananas for my son. So once I've put in all my fruit, I will add typically some oats, just a couple of scoops, and then I'll also add flax and chia seeds. This particular evening I didn't have any flax, so I just added the chia seeds, and then I'll add some almond butter. And the chia seeds give some fiber, the almond butter gives some protein and fat and fiber, so that's why I like to add that in. Once I've added all of those things, I'll add some almond milk, and that'll be the base. And typically I'll add some ice too, but in this particular evening I didn't really have any room in the cup to add the ice. So once I've added all those ingredients, I'll mix up the smoothie, and sometimes even I'll include collagen protein in it, but I'll mix up the smoothie and I'll drink it. On this particular night, I was drinking it kind of just right before I went to bed because I hadn't really gotten enough throughout the day. So anyway, hope you love this video. If you do, don't forget to subscribe.